Hello, I'm Chris Fowler for Sportscentury. It's 1960 in Pittsburgh, city of blast furnaces, hard hats, and a long, sad tradition of sports failure. It will be 20 years before the Steelers forge 4 NFL championships, and the Pirates haven't won a pennant since 1927. But hope rises incandescent into the smoky heights above Forbes Field. The Bucs are playing Game 7 of the World Series against the mighty Yankees. One man, Bill Mazeroski, whose last name rings with the hammer and clang of a smelting factory, will spark redemption with the crack of his bat. But before and after his momentous act, this reluctant hero played second base with the hands of a cellist and the heart of a lion.
Right to the second baseman, Mazeroski. He tags Lopez, now throws to first, giving time for the double play.
He was a magician at second base. I've never seen anybody make the double play as well as Bill did. In fact, when I was over in Houston, when Joe Morton got hurt, I had to play second base, and I came out early and just watched Maz, watched his footwork, and watched what his hands did.
He was called no touch. In other words, the ball came to him. He didn't even seem to throw it. It just sort of kind of passed through his body magically on the way to the first base.
Now you see it, now you don't, because you would get it and it would be gone, you know. It wouldn't even touch the glove. Because we joked to him, you be sure you don't have 2 balls.
The throw would come to Mazeroski, and the next thing you know, there'd be a flick of the wrist, and that would be off going toward first base.
Somebody will say, my dad saw the glove. It was the glove. This glove was like a glove. It was small, by today's standards I'm talking about. No bushel basket. This was pure leather on leather in the hand. That was it.
It was like the old motorman's gloves the old baseball players used to use. And he'd sew that sucker up and looked like dogs had been chewing on it.
He had a way of positioning his gloves so that the ball would just hit the heel of his glove. And his hand is about 2 inches away from it. And it would just go directly on the heel to his hand to first base with some hair on it.
He had that little instinct that's almost a God-given talent. There's ways you can improve yourself as a infielder, a defensive infielder, but when it comes down to it, I think the thing that separates the great infielders from the average is that little instinct that you're born with.
You can't catch the ball and be quick, because once you catch the ball, you have to reach in and get it. Mine was more of a ricochet. You know, it would hit here and ricochet into the hand and go.
Harry Walker was his manager, and he wanted to know how Maz turned the double play so fast. And so he decided to take stop-action pictures of Maz, 24 frames per second. And what you notice right off the bat is that it takes Maz 6 frames to catch the ball and get rid of the ball. 6 over 24 is 1/4 of a second. That's pretty fast.
He was an all-star at 21, and when the National League team was taking infield practice, the American League stars stopped throwing the ball back and forth to rubberneck at Mazeroski.
American League teams never saw him, and the word gets around among professionals. Watch this kid turn the double play. You're going to be amazed at how this guy can play second base and how he turns a double play.
We led the league in double plays for 5 years and set a National League record for the most double plays ever made. And 3 years later, he and Gene Alley broke that record. Mazeroski could have led the league with anybody at shortstop if they could catch the ball.
Mazeroski's 161 double plays in 1966 and 1,706 over a career of 17 seasons endured the 20th century as major league records for second basemen.
When I think of Maz on the double play, I think of him in midair as Rudolf Nureyev, and then when he comes to the ground, I think of him as Reinitsky.
Maz had big legs, and he was tough. You know, they try to take him out. I never saw Maz taken out of the double play.
That was his neighborhood. And if you want to go in and take your shot, go ahead, but you're probably going to do more damage to yourself than him.
I used to plant myself and point my toe right at first base, and with the squat that I was in, my knee, when you hit my knee, you stop dead. And a lot of people hit that, and a lot of them didn't get up.
Maz definitely mastered Euclidean geometry. He figured out very early on in his career as second baseman, when he's turning the double play, that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. These base runners, even the The greatest ones, like Frank Robinson or Willie Mays, they'd get down in a hurry. They would change the way they ran the bases when Mazeroski was playing.
I remember we were playing Philadelphia once in Forbes Field, and they had an outfielder, tall, lanky kid, fast, and you could see where he was determined to take Maz out. And he got a pretty good lick in on Maz, but what it looked like was he hit a pole and just slid down. And I remember Maz extending his hand to pick the guy up and pat him on the rear end and saying, "You all right?"
After they realized the Stone wasn't badly hurt, that he was shook up, they were laughing. Because some of them said they had told him, "Don't go into 9 too hard because you might be sorry."
Once in a while, he jumped out of the way, but basically, he stayed right on the bag, and guys would slide into him, and half the time they limped off the field after they slid into Bill Mazeroski.
Beneath his on-field toughness, Mazeroski was a quiet man, devoted to fairness and understatement.
He is the most cooperative man. He is the most approachable man. He is the most humble and modest man. And I dare say, in the spectrum of all the athletes that I've met and all the years I've been in this business, he sits at the top of the list.
He had an equanimity of feeling about himself. He didn't vary much. He always thought he was good, but he didn't express it in any other way except by the way he played.
Mazeroski won 8 Gold Gloves, creating fielding masterpieces that still hang in the memories of Pittsburgh fans. Yet the image for which he will always be remembered is not with a glove, but a bat.
The great irony that has been weighing like an albatross around Mazeroski's neck is that the greatest fielding second baseman in the history of baseball should be remembered for something he did with his bat instead of with his glove. What he did with his bat was he won a World Series with it. What he did with his glove is he achieved a mastery that no man had ever achieved before that or since.
Born into the Depression on September 5th, 1936, Bill Mazeroski grew up in rural southeastern Ohio.
He lived in he calls it a chicken coop, one-room house, really, and that he and his sister and his mother and dad.
No electricity, having to literally walk a few miles back and forth to school, you know, all those typical stories that you hear about how hard it was in the old days, but this wasn't exaggerated. You know, this was an area, a tough coal mining area with no luxuries.
Phil didn't have running water most of the time. They didn't have refrigerator. They didn't have electricity. Mom sewed and re-sewed all his clothes. They didn't have much.
His mother weighed 400 pounds, and if he didn't go out and fish, catch catfish, they didn't eat at night.
I never had a pole, but it was a willow stick and a kite string and a few hooks, and we dig worms and go catch catfish, and we ate a lot of catfish out of that river. I don't know how I'm still alive after eating that dirty river.
His father had been a coal miner, but originally wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, and got hurt in a coal mine where he lost some of his toes.
He was 19 years old, and he was going to go to spring training with the Cleveland Indians in Florida, and he was working in the coal mine at the time, and then a big lump of stone or coal or something fell and just brushed his nose and cut his foot off, and so that ended his career.
Handicapped for the rest of his life, Lou Mazeroski developed into an alcoholic.
He was an unpleasant drinker, and in order to protect his family, his own family, from himself, Bill's father decided to go to Akron, and he began working in a factory. And he actually dried out. He stopped drinking altogether.
He moved to Akron, Ohio to get away from his friends so he could quit drinking, and that's what he did. He moved out there and he got himself dry.
His dad worked with him, just taught him certainly the basics of the game.
We'd go out and throw just with a rubber ball and learn how to catch it soft early, because the tennis ball would just bounce out and you had to learn how to catch it with 2 hands. Make my mother mad. He'd take me out and teach me how to slide, and my blue jeans would get holes in the knees, and she would get all upset because I only had about 2 pair of them, and I had to keep them clean to get to school.
He was just an outstanding young man that was born with a gifted talent of hand, mind, and eye coordination. And he spent his entire young life working on it and perfecting it.
There wasn't much to do because there was nothing there. We had a ball team, and my Uncle Og, he was the coach of it. For my first glove, I dug my Uncle Og's outhouse hole, a two-seater.
He would trade chores with his sister, Mary Lou, and do her chores as long as she would pitch to him.
I'd have to walk that mile down to the highway and take a water bucket and get it full of stones. And I'd pick it up and I'd have her throw them to me. But she had welts all over me, hitting them back at her.
He played in the United Mine Workers League, played with men. I mean, grown men, coal miners, and he was an outstanding ball player at age 13.
He was only an 8th grader. Now he's playing against men. I mean, guys in their late 20s and early 30s.
But at Warren Consolidated High School, Mazeroski turned more heads on the hardwood.
Bill Mazeroski averaged 28 points a game when he was a high school basketball player. He's not even 6 feet tall. He would play point guard, and then he would dribble the ball down into the paint and become the center for the team.
He played center, and he was always matched up against guys 3, 4, 5 inches taller than him, but they never had a chance.
They'd lose a ball game 42-38. He'd score 36 points.
For all his success at basketball, Mazeroski reserved his strongest passions for the game that connected him to his father.
He was one of these fellows that had his mind on being a good ball player. You know, there was no outside things that was going to stop him from being a good ball player.
I tried out as a freshman in high school. My high school coach was Al Brazio, and he saw me without even working with me or anything. He says, "I'm gonna make you a big leaguer."
Brazio was one of these guys. He sought perfection and in his own way. You understand, whatever he done, and that's what he tried to instill in Maz.
He knew the fundamentals of baseball probably as well as anybody I met in professional baseball, too.
Brazio's teachings paid off. At 17, Mazeroski signed with the Pirates as a shortstop, finishing the 1954 season with Class A Williamsport. That winter, his fielding drew raves in the Dominican Republic.
We were down there in Santiago, and it's a town way off from the big city. I'm making the double plays, and all of a sudden these fans are watching and going, ooh, ooh. And I'm looking around, I'm thinking somebody's hitting a long home run that they're getting oohing about. And here they're oohing about me turning the double play, how quick I could turn the double play from shortstop.
Mazeroski's magic hands did not escape notice from on high. In 1955, he was moved from shortstop to the position for which he was born.
By the time he made the majors in 1956, he was 19 years old. 2 years later, he was the youngest National League second base all-star in history.
At the age of 19, you could see that he was far and away above any other second baseman in the major leagues.
Branch Rickey is the individual who got Mazeroski to shift from shortstop to second base. Mazeroski was in the position where it would be very difficult to make a double play, and he made a beautiful twin killing, and Branch Rickey said, that guy stays at second base.
Fresh from his historic stint with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Rickey was trying to resurrect the Pirates from years of mediocrity. The master builder strengthened his pitching staff with Vernon Law, Bob Friend, and Elroy Face. In the field, he brought Roberto Clemente to right field, Dick Grote to shortstop, and Bill Mazeroski to second base.
He always liked to stay in the background, didn't say an awful lot, you know, and he just went out there and played, and, you know, and just got better and better and better.
In 1958, Mazeroski's near-flawless fielding and 19 homers helped lead the Pirates to their first second-place finish in 14 seasons. After dropping to fourth the next year, Pittsburgh opened 1960 with its eye on the prize.
Early in the year, the Pirates played a game on a Saturday night against the Dodgers, and they were losing with 2 outs on top of the ninth, and they end up winning that game. That's when I started to believe, hey, they might win the pennant.
We never worried when we were down. The 7th inning on seemed like the game just started.
It was really a trademark of that team. They owned the last 3 innings of every game. They knew it, and the other teams started to believe it too.
They
in many ways typified the self-image of Pittsburghers. No prima donnas, just a lot of hard-working guys that all came together for him.
No one wore a blue collar with more style than Mazeroski. The People's Choice made the All-Star team for the third straight year, while guiding the Pirates to the pennant. But few gave the upstarts much of a chance in the World Series.
It was like stuff movies were made of. We were going to play the Yankees.
The David and Goliath was a big, this was the Yankees. This was big city New York against the small market Pirates. No one gave the Pirates any chance to win that season.
The Pirates had been hopeless for years, and so there were 2 or 3 generations who had known nothing but defeat in Pittsburgh.
The Yankees had a very powerful team. They had a bunch of home run hitters, Maris and Mantle.
They were a monopoly. They were the damn Yankees. They won year after year after year.
The 1960 World Series, well, you could say, as some people do, the Yankees had much the better team. But hey, it's who wins over 7 games. And the Pirates had a very gritty team.
They had a ragtag bunch. They should not have been contenders for the World Series against the team that had dominated the previous decade.
The Yankees had been winning every year, and it was old hat. But the Pirates had an enthusiasm that I knew was going to make for an exciting series.
It is a beautiful day in Pittsburgh. Sunny, blue skies.
In Game 1 at Forbes Field, the Pirates' 20-game winner Vernon Law was opposed by one of Yankees manager Casey Stengel's more bizarre choices.
The manager's decisions are vital. One error can prove fatal. And sure enough, in the very first game of the World Series, Casey Stengel made what turned out to be what everybody says was a fatal error.
Art Dittmer started the World Series, and the Yankee players never forgave Stengel for starting him instead of Whitey Ford. They didn't think Dittmer was up to it, and of course, Dittmer got creamed.
The Pirates picked up 3 runs in the first. Then, with the score 3-2 in the fourth, Mazeroski provided a taste of things to come.
Mazeroski hit a vital home run in the first game. It gave them a lead. They didn't give up.
I think it sort of got me off on the right foot and relaxed me a little bit. After that, I felt that, geez, they're not so invincible. We can beat them.
But over the next 2 games, the Yankees asserted their dominance, burying the Pirates by a 26-3 margin.
And the Yankees now, with a 10-0 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates, take over a 2-1 lead in games.
They demolished us. They got into our secondary pitching and literally just run right over us with both feet.
When you're defeated 16-3 and 10-0, there's no second guessing. You go in the clubhouse and you forget about it and you go out and battle the next day.
You never saw defeat or despair in anything the Pirates ever said.
Rising from the ashes of the Yankees' 2-game barrage, Mazeroski and the Pirates won games 4 and 5 by a total of 4 runs.
And now the Pirates lead the New York Yankees in the series 3-2. The Bucks are only 1 game away from the glory and the gold.
We still were playing the Yankees, and we knew Ford was going to be pitching, so we weren't overconfident. We were confident, yes, we thought we had a chance to win.
Well, after we won enough to come back to Pittsburgh ahead 3-2, I think all of us felt we were going to win the 6th game. We didn't come close.
And the 2-1 pitch coming down to Richardson. Long fly ball deep to left field. Back goes Simone, still going back. And it is over his head and off that scoreboard in deep left field. Good for extra bases. Berra's going to score. Blanchard is coming around third. He's coming on in. Down to third base goes Bobby Richardson with a stand-up triple.
In Game 6, the Pirates went down 12-0 under another Yankees bombardment.
The series had been so unique and such a taffy pull with the Yankees clobbering the Pirates one day and the Pirates eking out a win the next.
Both teams felt as though they had the destiny was playing a hand in their favor. When the Yankees came back and forced a 7th game, it was like nobody is going to beat the New York Yankees in the 7th game of the World Series. It is not going to happen.
Our air of confidence was that we'd scored a lot of runs, and now we were going on to victory.
The greatest game of all time? Well, my baseball mind takes me to the 7th game of the 1960 World Series.
People talk about the great games in the history of the World Series. There was no better game, no more dramatic game than the 7th game of the 1960 series.
Today is the day. This is the game, the point of no return. Warming up for the New York Yankees is Bob Turley. For Danny Murtaugh and the Pittsburgh Pirates, Vernon Law.
When we finally got around to the 7th game of the 1960 World Series, I think we still had that air of confidence. It was, okay, gang, it shouldn't have come this far, but let's go ahead and finish this ball game.
It was the Yankees. I knew that it was not going to be easy to win that game, but we felt like we had a chance.
Get right down to the 7th game. All you got to do is win one more game, and we figured we had as good a shot as they did.
In the first, Pittsburgh's Rocky Nelson settled in with 1 on and 2 out.
Turley's 2-1 pitch to Nelson. A swing and a wild deep to right field. Way back.
And in the second, the Pirates extended their lead to 4-0.
Mazeroski came over, had trouble picking the ball up, and 2 more runs are in, and the Pirates lead 4-0 here in the second inning.
We wanted to be out in front, and we were pleased, but you got 9 innings to play, and they got some pretty good hitters over there. We knew we had our work cut out for us.
The Yankees, every time they played in the World Series, always had this sense of destiny, that they were supposed to win. That was the attitude they brought to the ballpark.
After the Yankees closed the gap to 4-2, Yogi Berra batted with 2 on in the 6th.
I remember that Yogi Berra came through with a dynamic home run. He jumped up and down like a little boy playing Little League baseball.
It is going to be a home run for Yogi Berra.
Well, I remember the Berra home run. I said, oh no, here we go. And I said, oh boy, we're in trouble here.
It was a huge home run. It put the New York Yankees up 5-4. And, you know, things were getting late in Forbes Field.
Pittsburgh's problem deepened when New York got 2 more runs in the 8th to make it 7-4. But the Pirates weren't finished.
Chance goes to the wide. The 2-2 pitch coming to Samoli. Swing and a fly ball hit out of the right center field. Dropping in a hurry. Barris coming on. Can't get it. Base hit. And that'll bring around the top end of the batting order, Bill Verdon.
Verdon hit a ground ball to Tony Kubek at shortstop. Sure double play ball. Took a bad hop, hit him in the throat.
Swinging a ground ball hit right toward the shortstop. Oh, it hit Kubek in the face. It hit him in the face, and Kubek has been hurt, and all hands are safe. A bad hot ground ball came up and hit him in the face.
When Verdon's ball hit Kubek in the neck, there was sort of a thing like, what's going on here?
We got a break there. We got men on first and second. It started feeling good about it because a lot of things were just starting to fall into place.
Dick Groat's run-scoring single cut the Yankees' lead to 7-5. Then, with 2 on and 2 out, Roberto Clemente stepped up.
Clemente hit a ball to me in the hole, which I very seldom made a heck of a play, and I made a heck of a play. I caught the ball and went to throw it to first base.
Nobody to throw to. Did not come to cover.
Our pitcher named Jim Coates was standing on the mound. Now, if he covers first base, Hal Smith don't come up to hit.
Coates down the line from third. Clemente off first. Coates into the windup. Here's the pitch. Long drive, deep left field. That goes there. It's gone, baby. The Pirates lead 9-7 right over.
Smitty hitting a home run, putting us 2 runs ahead, and all I could think of is, boy, we got him now. Jeez, we're going to win this thing.
Here it was 9-7. And it looked like he had won the game. And Hal Smith says, I was a World Series hero. I mean, certainly we could keep these guys from scoring 2 runs in the 9th inning.
At the end of the 8th inning, and knelt in the commissioner's box right alongside of our dugout. And I wanted to be ready to jump over the rail and go down through the club dugout into the clubhouse. And then Dad Burn Yankees came back and tied us.
An RBI single by Mickey Mantle in the 9th cut the Pirates' lead to 9-8. Then, on a hot shot to first by Yogi Berra, Mantle's base running kept the rally alive.
Rocky Nelson was playing first base. He caught the ball on the first hop, and when he turned to throw, Mantle was sliding back into first base, of course went under his tag, and that allowed the run to score, whereas a double play would have taken us out of the game. So we tied it up in the 9th inning.
Game 7 itself had been such a back and forth affair that the fans in the stands must have been exhausted by the time the bottom of the ninth came around. We're just settling back into their seats, and here's Mazeroski leading off the bottom of the ninth inning against Ralph Terry, a 9-9 game.
Whitey Ford was warming up in the bullpen, and Stengel chose Ralph Terry. Oh, don't get me wrong, Ralph Terry was a fine pitcher.
Ralph Terry had pitched too many innings that year. Terry was a control pitcher, and when he was right, very tough to hit him.
I went to the bench, and I was just sitting there, and I didn't know I was up. Somebody yelled, "Maz, you're the hitter." I forgot I was on deck.
His mind was 1,000 miles away. He gets up, picks up his helmet, picks up his bat, walks up to the plate. He's thinking, we've got to end this thing now. Got to get the Yankees out of there. They're too dangerous. They'll come back in the 10th and whip us.
I was a high ball hitter, and Terry threw the first pitch. It was probably up around just above the letters a little bit, and it was just a little too high.
So we're tied up 9-9. The first pitch from Terry, high and inside, ball one to Mazeroski.
The first pitch was high, and Maz was a notorious high ball hitter, well known even as a 24-year-old, someone who could hurt you.
I can still hear the catcher Blanchard yelling out to Terry. He walked out in front of the plate and said, "Hey, he's a high ball hitter. Get the ball down."
And I called the wrong pitch. I called a slider. Slider forgot to slide.
All right, 1 ball, no strike, score side, 9-9, bottom half of the ninth. Ralph Terry's in the windup. Here comes the big man. There goes the long drive. Hit deep to left field. Going back, and you'll be there. Going back. You can't get this goodbye.
I kept watching Yogi, and then he stopped. It was gone, and man, let me tell you, it was just like I hit it.
The only thing I remember that day was seeing Yogi Berra's number 8, and I saw $3,000 going over the fence because the winning share was $8,000 to win and $5,000 to lose.
And I'd look down the left field line, and there's that umpire giving it this, and then just about the time I hit second base, I realized that we beat him. And I probably didn't touch ground all the way the rest of the way home.
Mazeroski hit the home run. The ball left the park at 3:36 p.m. At 3:37 p.m., a civic orgy began.
People never stopped yelling. The noise in Forbes Field went on for a long time. Nobody thought about going home.
This was just genuine elation and joy because David had slain Goliath.
There was a real look in Maz's eyes of pure exhilaration and glee, too. I mean, he knew what he had done.
All I could think of is we beat the Yankees. We beat the Yankees. We did it.
He was the ideal guy to have hit that home run because everybody liked him so much.
Mazeroski's game-winning homer in the bottom of the ninth of Game 7 was the first and only of its kind.
Seeing Mantle come in off the field with his eyes red and walking around in the room, and you could see tears in the corners of his eyes, and then he sat down in front of his locker and just stared into it. There was a period of mourning before he could speak.
Me and Mickey Mantle and Yogi, we were crying by our lockers because we just thought we were a better team, which we were.
Their pride and their sense of invincibility was replaced by a little bit of mortality that they had a hard time accepting.
World champions for the first time in 35 years, the Pirates froze the social history of America's #1 working-class town.
If you grew up in Pittsburgh the way I did, you remember where you were when you heard FDR die, when you heard about Pearl Harbor, you heard when the war ended, and where you were when Mazeroski hit the homer. Every Pittsburgher remembers where he was that Thursday afternoon.
I was on my honeymoon, actually, and I was driving up and down these hills out in Utah, and every time I could only get to the game when I got to the top of the hill, and my wife, we just got married 2 days before. She thought I was crazy.
I remember listening to the game on a school bus, on a transistor radio that we had plastered to the window of the bus so we could get better reception. And I think in our mind's eyes, we were in Forbes Field. We saw there. We were there.
While Pittsburgh celebrated and New York mourned, the man most responsible for both civic conditions remained within himself, seeking calm among bedlam.
We left the ballpark, and
just had to make our way through a big crowd, but it was such a friendly crowd, and everybody was so happy, and we thought we just needed a few minutes to collect ourselves and our thoughts, and we stopped in Shenley Park, which is a park adjacent to the old Forbes Field, and we just sat on a park bench for a little bit and collected our thoughts, and while Pittsburgh partied all around us, we sat there with the squirrels.
After it was over, it was pretty much like any other game. I just thought it was another home run to win a ball game and would never last 40 years anyhow.
To end the series and Game 7, you know, it's just one of those things that everybody dreams about. He's the only one that ever did it.
Mazeroski's heroics in 1960 laid the mantle of celebrity on his shoulders. His team's success proved short-lived.
We had something going. The next year, we ran off 10 straight to start the 61 season, and then from then on, just things fell apart. Things didn't happen right, and maybe an injury here and there, and then that was it for that team, and then it broke up a year later.
By 1963, Mazeroski was the only remaining infielder from the championship team. As the Pirates slipped out of contention, he continued to shine at second base.
He worked for everything he ever got. He never made a lot of money. He never asked for a lot of money. He loved to play the game. He was a small-town boy that came to a big city and actually captured the city.
Everything to Maz was kind of nonchalant, you know? I'll play 9 innings, I'll take my shower, have a beer, and I'll go home. You know, he was never, he never wanted to be the highlight of the team.
When the Pirates made it back to the World Series in 1971, Mazeroski was clearly battle-worn from his defense of second base.
His legs, his ankles, there's blood scars all over his ankles from being spiked.
It's not a friendly place in the middle right there when you've got him coming in with the spikes and the roadblock. You know, second base, you're there taking a beating.
From his knee down, so many times people try to knock him out of a double play. Maz would have black and blues. You should see Maz's legs. They were unbelievable. But it never affected him making the double play. He never got gun shy at second base, even though he got nailed sometimes.
After just one plate appearance in the 1971 World Series, which was won by the Pirates in 7 games, Mazeroski limped through his 17th season.
Every time I tried to stretch or do something extra, make a good play and reach over, I'd pop a muscle. Something would pull, the groin would pull, the hamstring would go, or you'd strain your shoulder. I couldn't play 2 or 3, 4, 5 days in a row because I'd get hurt. I said, Jesus, it's not right. This is time to go.
He became that great teacher and counselor to young players, and he helped make a Dave Cash, and he was a confidant to the Joe Morgans and other peers of his time who were trying to emulate him.
After retirement, Mazeroski tried coaching, 1 season with the Pirates, 2 with the Seattle Mariners.
It was just a whole new ball game for him, and something that he just wasn't quite as comfortable with.
You know, he always enjoyed working with the minor leaguers more than the major leaguers, because at that level they don't know it all yet, and they appreciate it because, you know, it's not too often you get to come to practice and have a 17-year major league veteran maybe helping you out with your stance or you know, how you approach a ground ball.
Coaching was different. It was more like you know, when you're a player, you just look after yourself and do for yourself. Now, when you're a coach, you got 25 guys to look after. You got to get to the ballpark a lot earlier, and you leave a little later, and you get a lot less pay.
When his number 9 was officially retired from active service on August 7, 1987, Mazeroski accepted the honor with classic humility.
I dreamed as a little boy as playing baseball in the major leagues, and I got to live that dream. But I never ever, in my wildest dreams, believed that something like this could happen to me.
When things start happening to you and you start having some success, it's always easy to remember how to act, because you saw Bill Mazeroski and you saw how a superstar can act.
He liked a girl in the office, and he was too bashful to ask her out to have an ice cream or whatever.
Danny Murtaugh, the manager, was more or less the matchmaker. He liked his ball players being married. And he introduced them.
As I'm told it happened, Danny and Bill were outside one day, and it was a rained-out ball game, and Danny said, "Why don't you take that girl out to dinner?"
I says, "No, take her out." I wasn't, big on that. But he talked me into it.
Somehow it came about that Bill did give me a call and asked if I could meet him for dinner, which I agreed to, and we had a wonderful dinner and enjoyed the evening in each other's company.
That was our first date, and here we are today.
When we return to Sports Century, Bill Mazeroski finds the gates of history locked.
Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series. The Pirates 10 and the Yankees 9.
In 1978, Bill Mazeroski started a new journey towards baseball's ultimate destination, Cooperstown.
It was on the lips of everybody in this community. How can they pass him up? How can they pass him up?
He was not a great hitter. He was a great position player, and also was probably as good as anybody I've ever seen on the double play. But again, in my estimation, he was a very, very good ball player. But the Hall of Fame is not for good ball players, it's for the great ball players.
Absolutely the finest defensive second baseman in the history of baseball. Now, if you can't find a place in Cooperstown for the greatest fielding second baseman of all time, then there's something major wrong with the whole system.
In 15 years, Mazeroski never garnered more than 42% of the writers' votes. 75% was necessary to enter the Hall of Fame. Then, in 1996, his name was turned over to the Veterans Committee, where his old GM, Joe Brown, took up his cause.
Well, there's no tension ever between those of us on the committee. We recognize that everybody has a right to their own opinion. What I must do is to persuade people to think as I do. Maz belongs in the Hall of Fame.
We're supposed to look at it from a larger sense of comparison. Where does this man fit in all baseball history? I was impressed by the new members, like Hank Aaron and Marichal, who are younger than some of the people they replaced, and their feelings about how important he was as a defensive second baseman.
Now I'll tell you why I said this was a worthwhile day. I am smiling. Bill Mazeroski was elected to the Hall of Fame.
If Mazeroski fans were smiling, the announcement on March 6, 2001 only served to inflame the debate. Should defense alone get a player into the Hall of Fame?
The Fan, WFAN New York.
Joe Brown getting Mazeroski in the Hall of Fame was a disgrace. Guy's got a .301 lifetime on-base percentage, .260 batting average. It's not a Hall of Fame baseball player, it's all there is to it. I don't care if he played 9 positions.
I was told by members of the committee that, in fact, they even wound up voting for Mazeroski, even though they didn't believe that he was, in their minds, that he was a Hall of Famer, because they felt if they didn't vote for him, then this thing was going to keep coming up every year, and until they could get their own man in, they were going to have to wait until Mazeroski was put in.
Mazeroski's career batting average was only .260, and he hit 138 home runs. By themselves, those do not sound like numbers of a Hall of Famer, and you can understand the argument that they are not. But his defensive excellence was overwhelming. He played in a park that was very disadvantageous to him, and he played most of his career in an era that was dominated by pitchers, period.
When I used to be on the Veterans Committee, I voted for him because I played against him a lot. I knew how great he was. Not only was he a great fielder, he was a clutch hitter.
Between 1958 and 67, Mazeroski led all second basemen in RBIs with 660.
They say, well, he didn't drive in 100 runs. No, he didn't. But he would save 100 runs.
Bill Mazeroski has 4 major league records that exist 27 years after he retired. 27 years. Most double plays in a season, most double plays in a career, most years leading a league in double plays, and most years leading a league in assists.
almost any measure that I have ever seen that tries to quantify fielding, and that's of course a very difficult thing to quantify, but every attempt to measure it comes to the same conclusion, that Bill Mazeroski was far and away the best fielding second baseman in baseball history.
I think defense belongs in the Hall of Fame. Defense deserves as much credit as pitching and hitting, and I'm proud and honored to be going in the Hall of Fame on the defensive side, and mostly for my defensive abilities. I thought when the Pirates retired my number that would be the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It's hard to talk to this. I don't think I'm going to make it. Thank you very, very, very much. Thank everybody.
At the Hall of Famers dinner that Sunday night, one member complained that entry into Cooperstown had become too easy. The response was quick and firm. Not only was a new balance of power struck in the Veterans Committee, giving the players 2/3 of the vote, but full disclosure of the ballots was also decreed. Warranted or not, it was hard to ignore the timing of the remark or its target. But for a generation of Pittsburgh fans, there was no doubt about Bill Mazeroski's claim to everlasting fame. Each October 13th, the loyals still gather at the only wall that remains of old Forbes Field, and with ticket stubs and banners, they trade memories of one momentous Yankee-killing homer and a career of unequaled grace at second base. For Sports Century, I'm Chris Fowler.